Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Dan and today we're looking at what films and TV shows I watched in January 2022. Okay, so kicking us off with a banger, I watched this on like the first day of the new year. We got Prisoners. Now Prisoners is going to be going straight to S tier. This is honestly probably one of my favorite movies ever. I absolutely love it. I remember watching it back on the day when it first released in cinema, and I wasn't too familiar with Denis Villeneuve at the time, and me and my friend kind of just went to the movies because we wanted to go to the movies, and we weren't going with the intention to watch Prisoners. We were kind of going to go and just see what was out, and then we saw that Prisoners was out, and then we went to watch that, and it just blew our minds at the time. And every single time I've rewatched it since, it's been just as amazing, and I absolutely love it. Performances in this are really good, and this film is just really intense and captivating, and you literally can't stop watching till the end. It's so good. It's one of my all-time favorite movies at the moment, and it's going straight to S tier. I watched it with another friend for the first time this year, or it was their first time, and they seemed to really like it too. So yeah, it was really fun, and I'm glad I got to start off the new year with such a solid film. Next up we have Red Rocket. This film released last year, and it's pretty good. I'm gonna probably put it on B tier. It didn't captivate me as much as I think it did with other people. It pretty much follows this washed up porn star, and he returns to like his hometown, and just seeing how like he tries to sort of get back with people he knew with, or like reconnect with those people that he knew before going and doing his thing. Salman Rex is the lead actor in this film, and he does have a really great performance in this movie, I must say. And this film is directed by Sean Baker, and if you're familiar with the Florida Project, which he made a couple years ago, it's got a similar sort of style, and it's got like a very authentic feel to it, which I also did appreciate. But as I said, it didn't engage with me as much as I think it did with other people, but I still highly recommend it. I still think it's a really solid film, and you should check it out. Next up we have The Worst Person in the World. The Worst Person in the World. No, I'm kidding. And I'm going to put this one in A tier. This film was excellent. It was really great. It's a Norwegian film, and it pretty much follows this young woman who's just trying to sort of figure out life. She's battling here and there with her career choices and relationships, and I find a lot of it really relatable in some aspects, because I think for myself, I've also just been battling to sort of almost find the path that I want to take in life. And I've almost battled to find my calling, if that makes sense. And I think this film deals a lot with that. There's some really great scenes, just like really intimate scenes with this character and other characters in the film. And it's a really sort of deep film at times as well. But at the same time, it also does have like humor in it as well, which works really well in the movie. And it does just really hit home for me. I think this film is really excellent, and I do recommend it for anyone who also just kind of feels like a bit lost right now in life, and they're not quite sure what the next step is. I think this film does deal with a lot of those sort of themes and topics, and I think it's excellently directed. And this lead actress in this film, I forget her name, but she was absolutely amazing in it as well. And I guess I'd also say it's a film that would probably get better after rewatching it a couple more times for me. I think it will become even better for me once I rewatch it a bit more. It is a foreign film, so there are subtitles, but don't let that stop you from watching it. It's a really great and solid movie, and it's definitely one of those films I will be revisiting sometime soon. I think it's really great. Then we have Spencer, and this is the second time watching Spencer for me, and it's going to go S tier as well. Spencer blew my mind. Now this film is definitely getting quite a lot of hype already, especially regarding Kristen Stewart's performance as Princess Diana, but it even exceeded my expectations for me. And now, although this film is based on true events and a true story, this film does sort of take the narrative in really interesting and sort of poetic ways as well, I would say. And it sort of just goes deep into what it meant to be this royal person in this royal house, and just the battles that comes with, or the struggles that comes with. It's not just perfect. Your life isn't just perfect, and there are hardships and there are struggles, and I think this film definitely touches on that in a really interesting and deep way. It's a movie that I was blown away by, and it was definitely one of the best films I think that released last year. And although I've seen it twice already, I feel like once I see it for a third time, potentially it's going to even get better. for me. Like I absolutely love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's really, really good. Shot absolutely beautiful. I think it's shot on 60mm film. It looks stunning, and Johnny Greenwood's score for this movie as well is absolute perfection. I really, really do recommend this movie. It's one of the best movies that came out of last year, in my opinion. Then we have The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I watched this with a few friends. It's pretty solid. It's one of Guy Ritchie's better films, I would say. I'm gonna probably put it in C tier though. I love Guy Ritchie's films for like the action and all that sort of stuff. But for me, like a lot of the times, I don't often connect with the characters that well in his films. I'm not quite sure why, and I know I might be in the minority with this one. And look, I am a Guy Ritchie fan, I would say, but I do sometimes battle connecting with the characters, which means I sort of just enjoy the action throughout his films. For the most part, and that being said, he has made some really great films, and yeah, it's good. It's got some good performances in it, great action sequences, and some cool twists here and there. But I would say it's a C tier film, at least for this month for me. But if you haven't checked it, I do recommend it, especially if you are into Guy Ritchie films. But if you are into Guy Ritchie films, you probably have seen it already, I would think. Anyway, next up we have Spider-Man No Way Home. This was also the second time watching this film, and I'm putting this in S tier too. I loved Spider-Man No Way Home the first time I saw it, but then I saw it again, and all the sort of like issues I guess I had with it the first time around just sort of went away. Like, and I know it sounds lame and cliche and whatever, but I really do think this was the best possible film we could have got with regards to everything that happened in this movie, if that makes sense. If you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm going to spoil a few things now, but bringing back characters from the different sort of Spider-Man cinematic universes into this film, I don't think we could have got a better Spider-Man film with all these characters meshed together. Like, I don't think we could have got one. The sort of hallway fight scene in the apartments, like sort of towards the end of the second act of the film with Green Goblin and Spider-Man, is some of the best action we've seen in any Marvel Cinematic Universe film, in my opinion. It's super, super intense, and obviously that scene ending with Aunt May's death was super deep. So that was good. And then obviously just seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back, and just brought back so well and with such respect, perfection, and that their character arcs like continued into this film. They weren't just there for fan service. This is a really solid Spider-Man movie. It really, really is. And I think as time goes on in the future, I know there are a few issues with the film here and there, but as time goes on, I think this will be regarded as one of the best Spider-Man films ever. I genuinely believe that. I think it's just going to get better and better as it ages. I really do think this film is perfection. I wish I could see it more times in the cinema. I might try to go watch it again before it goes off, but it is a really excellent movie. It's great. It's good. It's great. Next up, we have the first Scream movie. I watched all the Scream movies for the first time this month, and that was a lot of fun. First Scream movie is going to, I'm going to put it in A tier. This film was super, super fun. Super, super, super fun. It was ahead of its time when it released, I would say. Commenting a lot on horror tropes at that time and at that age and in cinema. Like it makes fun of a lot of other like sort of horror slasher films that have come before it. But it also sort of, in a way, predicts what the horror tropes are going to be going forward in a really interesting way. Like, this film definitely influenced horror movies from that point onwards, and that's what I love about the Scream franchise. It not only sort of comments on the horror tropes at the time, but it also sort of comments on just cinema and cinema franchises, and like different like sequels and reboots, and the whole franchise like comments on this stuff. It's like a commentary on those tropes in cinema, not only in horror but cinema as a whole, and I think it does it really, really well. And it doesn't do it in a disrespectful way, but it does it in like a really fun and interesting way. So I absolutely love the first Scream movie. It is fantastic. It's probably like one of the best in the franchise, I would say. I do like Scream 5, which came out this year, and Scream 4 I thought was pretty solid too. But yeah, I think the first Scream was the best one, probably in the franchise. Maybe close to the fifth one as well. But it's iconic. It's an iconic horror film, and obviously everyone's familiar with Ghostface, who's like the sort of villain of the film. Yeah, it's a great movie. I really had a lot of fun with Scream. I thought it was awesome. And then we've got Scream 2, which is a worthy sequel, but it wasn't as good as the first one, unfortunately. So I'm going to probably put it in C tier. It was great. I really did have a fun time with it, but it wasn't the best one, unfortunately. But it was decent. It was decent. Next up, we have House of Gucci. I went to go watch this with my friend Roxy at the cinemas. She had a day off from work. No, she didn't have a day off from work. She hadn't started work. I don't know, something like that. And then, yeah, we went to go watch this in cinema. We had both been wanting to watch it for quite a while, and it was a really fun time. But this film is super long, and it's super drawn out, and it is pretty boring at times. And we kind of just were like, it was okay afterwards. So I'm probably going to put it in C as well. If it wasn't for the performances in this film, it would definitely be a lot lower. But it's probably going to go C for now. There's a lot of aspects in this film that just did not work. It does feel too long for its own good, unfortunately, and it just makes it a pretty dull experience, unfortunately. I feel like if this movie was shorter and a bit more concise, it could have been a lot better, in my opinion. Also, there were just some really weird choices made when making this film. Like for example, the color grade of this film is absolutely terrible. It looks so dull and so grayed out and desaturated. And like, for a movie that's focusing highly on fashion, you would think it would be a lot more creative in its color grade, for example. That being said, it was great seeing Lady Gaga again, throughout a really good performance. And the rest of the cast in this film also have really great performances, but unfortunately the writing and just the length of the film and stuff like the color grade just really made this movie fall flat for me in a lot of ways. But if you are interested in this film, I do recommend it. I know some people have absolutely loved this film, but for me, I just thought it was pretty average. Yeah.
Stop, you're going to make me. You're going to make me cry.
Then we have Scream 3, and this one is going to go to C as well. It was good. I did enjoy it a lot. It was fun seeing these characters back again. The great thing about the Scream franchise is that they bring returning characters back in a really fun and interesting way, and later on in the franchise they're called legacy characters, which I think is really interesting, because it's almost like the whole, like, for example, like in Star Wars, like you'd consider Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Luke Skywalker like legacy characters, and the Scream franchise like established their own like legacy characters too, which I think is really fun. So it was a good film. It's a good third film in a franchise. It's definitely not the best Scream film. I would say the third one might be the weakest one, actually. The really fun thing about Scream 3 is that they're almost in the film making Scream 3 as well, so it's like super meta, and just the way that progresses is like really fun and interesting. But I think narratively it's the weakest one, but it's still a really great time and a worthy sequel in the Scream franchise, I would say. Next up we have Scream 4, and this was like the first Scream, like the first like modern Scream film, I would say, and it was a lot of fun as well. It does reintroduce some of the older characters, which was fun, and it was like a Scream movie for the new generation, I would say. Really good, really fun. I think it's a solid film. I might actually push it. No, we can keep it B tier. We'll put it high B tier for now. High B tier. Although I kind of want to put it A tier. We'll leave it B tier for now, but it's a really fun film. Some really great performances in this movie as well. Really cool. It's a really good Scream film, and it's one of the best in the franchise, I would say. Just falling below Scream and Scream 5, which came out this year. But it's really solid. Really interesting like plot twists in this one. I know these films rely on like the twist villain quite a lot. But I think Scream 4 does it really well, and it's got a really sort of exciting climax, I would say, to the film. It's good, it's really good. Next up we have Scream, or Scream 5, and even the title for this film is like kind of making jokes at like the whole sort of sequel in a franchise, where they kind of just will rename the latest film after the original one, but it is essentially Scream 5. So we're going to be calling it Scream 5, and really great. This one takes the franchise on a really fun direction, and it's really interesting because you would think a fifth movie in a franchise like this, where essentially all the films are kind of like the same thing in a way, you would think it would get dull and boring, but even with this fifth one, it was really good. It was really fun. I loved how it sort of commented a little bit on the current horror tropes, because I feel like horror has developed a lot in the last 10 years in a different direction. So it's fun seeing how the Scream film comments on that now, because horror's obviously changed quite a lot since the first Scream film came out. Some really like crazy death scenes in this film. It was like super intense. I was like, oh my word, I can't believe this is happening. And this one was the first Scream film I'd seen in cinemas, which is really cool. So I saw it with one of my friends, Jenna, and we are both like absolutely obsessed with horror films, so that was super fun, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one, and I think it's one of the best in the franchise, up there with the original. I think it's super solid. I'm not quite sure if they will make another one after this. This one did kind of feel like it could be the end of the franchise, but I feel like maybe in 5 or 10 years time they might go back once again and do another one, because that's kind of what's been happening with these films. They all like wait a couple years and then do another one. Which I'm kind of happy with. I feel like they fund films to revisit every couple of years, and although they're familiar in a certain way, they're still also new and fresh, which I think is cool. Like for example, in Scream 5 and Scream 4, like the use of cell phones play an interesting role, which obviously weren't there in the first couple of movies. So stuff like that's really cool, and it's fun seeing how this franchise has developed. Next up, we have the Tragedy of Macbeth, and yeah, this film was solid. I think I was too dumb to understand what was happening most of the time. It's like super old English vibes, but it is a great time, and the performances are super solid, and the cinematography is perfection. Cinematography, production design, and all that sort of stuff, like it's honestly insane. It's beautiful. It almost has like this stage-like quality to it, like a stage play, but it's obviously like a film, and it's just done super well. It's like super like simple as well, like with regards to its production design and cinematography. But I think that's what makes it so good and so engaging. It's all in black and white. It looks absolutely stunning. It's 4:3 aspect ratio, perfection. A24. A24 know how to make their films look amazing, I would say, and luckily, I'm familiar with the story from high school, so like I kind of knew the storyline and where it was going. But the old English like dialogue, I was honestly too dumb to understand most of the conversations. But it's a good time. You should still watch it. I think it's great. Next up, we have Aquamarine. Yeah, I want to put this in D tier. It's a really, it hasn't aged well. It's pretty bad. The editing is atrocious. Some of the CGI aspects and the blue screen and green screen or whatever they used, it's bad. It's super bad. The performances are pretty bad, but it's a fun time. Yeah, it's a fun time. I hadn't seen this movie since like I was a kid. I remember my sister used to watch this movie, and yeah, it's not great, but I had a fun time with it. I think like if you are going to revisit this film, watch it with some friends and you'll enjoy it. But yeah, it's not great. Anyway, next up we have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and I'm sure you guys can guess where this one's going. It's going straight to freaking S tier, because this is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. I honestly mean it. I love this movie so much. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But every single time I've watched it since then, it's just, it's the love I have for this movie has just grown in such an exponential way. I don't know what it is, but it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful film. It's beautifully crafted. The performances are great, and I love it. It's one of those movies that I honestly watch a couple times a year because that's how much I love it. And every time I watch it, I just love it even more. It's so good. If you guys haven't seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, seriously watch it. Give it a go. And if you don't love it the first time, I do recommend watching it a couple more times after that, just to see. Look, it is definitely not for everyone. I will admit that, but for me, it's one of those. It's one of those movies that just impact me so deeply, and I really do love it. So I think it's a phenomenal movie. Next up, we have Licorice Pizza, which I was so excited for. I've been waiting for this movie since honestly July last year, and my country got it so late. We only got it in January. This was the last movie I watched this month, and it was fantastic. It's gonna go S tier too. It's a very simple film, especially with regards to PTA, Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a very simple narrative, very simple film. And at its core, it is a love story, but I think the way it it comments on relationships and love between two people is very interesting. It's almost like a coming-of-age story that follows a character called Elena Kane and Gary Valentine, and it follows their sort of journey together as friends, but also a bit more than friends at times, and they're sort of trying to navigate their feelings, but they're also trying to do all these other sort of things in the film, and it's interesting because I think it is a very true portrayal of what relationships can be, and what they sometimes are. And it was like interesting seeing how these characters although they have feelings towards each other, they sometimes don't act on those feelings. And then sometimes when they do feel something towards the other person, that person's like not there, or they're not feeling the same way anymore, and all that sort of thing. And it was really interesting because I felt like it was a very true depiction of what relationships can be. It was a very like sort of warm and comforting PTA film. I know a lot of his films are quite intense and almost dark at times, but this one was really, it had like a warm feeling to it, and it does have that sort of coming of age sort of like vibe to it too, which I really enjoyed. I would say that though that the film does end like in a really rushed way. When it ended, I was like, oh wow, it just ended. I can really feel the ending coming on properly, if that makes sense. And then there was also really one bad joke in this film that, if you've seen the film, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But besides that, I would say this film is absolutely excellent. I cannot wait to rewatch it. It's really, really good. Okay, then we're going into the TV series. I'm not going to talk that much on these because this is mainly like a movie tier list for the month. But we have Archive 81, which was on Netflix, and this is going B tier. Actually, I'm going to put an A tier. Pretty much follows this guy who sort of, I don't know what the right word is. I should have researched this a bit better before starting. But he almost like restores old like tapes and old movie reels and stuff like that. And he's called into this job to sort of restore these tapes from this one woman who died in like a burning building. And just sort of seeing how the story uncovers from there, and how he sort of figures out stuff from the past through these tapes, and how the past is almost reflected a bit in the future and the current events that this guy's going through. Really interesting. It is I guess a horror and sci-fi, I guess, although leaning a bit more towards horror, but I think it's done really, really well in a really interesting way. And it does almost have like this like Twilight Zone feel to it, which I really like too. So yeah, I would recommend this if you're into horror stuff. I think it's really solid. There are a few episodes that drag on a little bit long, and you kind of start figuring out stuff a little bit sooner than it actually happens. But at the same time, I thought it was really excellent and really good. I hope they do a season 2, because they kind of left it at a place where they could do a season 2, and I hope they do, because I'm really keen to see these characters going forward. I think it was a great first season to an interesting show. Next up, we have Ozark season 4, part 1. These people. Ugh. Part 1. Anyway, this is going S tier too. We got a lot on S tier this month, but yeah, phenomenal. Ozark is one of the best Netflix shows, hands down. It is phenomenal. And this part 1 of season 4, and guys, I can't even tell you like how anxious and stressed I was watching like every single one of these episodes for part 1 of season 4. It was an experience. I don't know, I could not cope with what these people are going through. I would break down. It gets so intense, and everything is sort of at boiling point now in this series. Like everything, you can just feel that something is about to sort of explode and everything's going to go wrong. And the series is so good. It's so well written. Like it's very complex in a way, like just with all the sort of like strings attached to different characters and you know, different places, but it's also very concise and focused on the characters too, if that makes sense. So you do understand what's going on through the characters' perspectives, but it is like this really complicated sort of network of people that are all connected in different ways, and it's really good. It's phenomenal. It's one of the best Netflix shows, hands down, in my opinion. I do recommend Ozark if you guys haven't seen it, and now is the perfect time to watch it, because if you can get to season 4 part 1, by the time you watched season 1, 2, 3 and season 4 part 1, season 4 part 2 will probably come out, and that is the last of Ozark. Ozark is ending, so I think the length of the show has also been perfect. Really good show, guys, check it out. Then I'm kind of through Peacemaker, halfway through Peacemaker. I'm actually not going to rank these because they haven't finished yet. Peacemaker's been decent, I've enjoyed it a lot, but I'll put that on probably next month's tier list. Yellow Jackets, also phenomenal, really, really good. This one surprised me. I've been watching it because of like the word of mouth that's been attached to it. Like a lot of people have been raving about it, and yeah, it's excellent so far. Really excited to finish that. And then the Book of Boba Fett, which I've been highly disappointed in. But the last episode, What episode was it? I think it was episode 5. You know which one I'm talking about. Some of the best Star Wars I've seen in years. It honestly might be the best like hour of Star Wars I've seen since the original trilogy and prequel trilogy. Like, I'm not even joking. It is phenomenal Star Wars. But that was only the one episode I thought that. The other episodes were average. Yeah. I don't want to spoil it in case people haven't seen it yet, but episode 5 of the show was phenomenal. And it made all the other episodes feel worth it for me. Yes. Okay. So that's what I watched this month, guys. Let me know if you've seen any of these films, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you have not yet seen any of these films, maybe let me know your top 3 films you saw this month in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me once again for this video. I really do appreciate it. Yes, I don't want to say I'm going to be making more videos because stuff's been crazy and hectic, but I really do want to try because I do miss making YouTube videos. But thanks so much for all of those who have been here since the beginning. You guys are the best. And for all those people who have joined along the way, thank you as well. I really do appreciate you, and I value you guys a lot. And thank you for just sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have an excellent February this coming month, and I hope the year started off really well for all of you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.